Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Black Girls Getting Their Shift Together. Let me tell you, today is again, I'm going to give myself credit because I've been having some lovely guests on, and tonight is no different. Tonight, we're going to talk about being burned out, going from burnout to brilliance. But the beautiful thing about it is really for leadership, people who are in leadership, but you can actually take this for life skills as well. And my guest, she's gone from burnout to brilliant. So she's not just talking from reading from a book, she's talking about from life experiences, and she's also changed the lives of several people as well. So we're going to talk about that. I'm very excited, but before we do that, let's get this intro in.
This for the queens, sisters manifesting their dreams. Get your cream by any means and beam with self-esteem. Beauty supreme and Buddha walk so mean. The way you fit in them jeans, you eat your cornbread and greens. Dance or a doctor, red wine or vodka. Redesign your spot and redefine your mantra. Retwist your locks and realign your chakras. Doing your squats and getting closer to God, huh? Brunching with your squad or taking a girl's trip. Adjust your crown, you God's gift to the world, sis. Celestial body, drink your water. Meditate, sun-kissed goddess, heavenly order. Levitate, tribe of Ashanti, black girl magic, melanin popping, whether you ratchet or lavish, whether you bougie or savage, you a gift and a treasure. You got to love a black girl getting a shift together. Black girls are getting a shift together. These black girls getting a shift together, man. These black girls are getting a shift together. These black girls getting a shift together, dog.
All right, we are back. Yes. So again, my name is Ursula B, and I'm just a black girl just trying to get her shift together. I want you all to join this movement of other black girls, meaning us black women, getting our shift together. Before we get into that, first, if you hear my voice, if it's replay, type replay. If you're listening live like we are right now, I want you to type what city, state you're coming in from. And if you've experienced any kind of burnout, I want you to type burnout in the chat. Make sure you like this video. You click on the like. Make sure you subscribe to this video on YouTube if you're listening. And please make sure and share this content with another black girl that's trying to get her shift together. If you think she may want to join this movement, that's the time to do it. Also, if it's you're listening to me on an audio podcast, make sure if you give your girl a 5-star review. And actually, if you feel moved, let me know, what do you feel you got from that particular episode. So right now I'm waiting on my guest to come on in. She had to log out and come back in for a moment. But while we wait, I just want to give you all a heads up on what's going on with Black girls getting their shift together. There is a lot of changes being made in the background of Black girls getting their shift together. I'm so excited. Excited, nervous a little nervous a lot because it's something new. But I also learned that to push through the nervousness, push through the fear, push through, just keep pushing through. Because I won't know if I don't try, right? Right. So definitely, I want you to subscribe to this channel. I want you to follow me on all social media platforms as well. That way, oh, she's coming. My guest is coming. That's why I want you all to know. So here she comes down. So when I actually go live with the rebranding of Black girls getting their shift together, you'll know. But just be prepared, because July, we are going to have a time. With no further ado, I'm going to bring my wonderful guest out of the waiting room. Hey.
Hello. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you wonderfully. How's my audio?
Oh, it's fantastic. It's good.
Good. How are you doing today?
Oh, I am wonderful. I'm in my happy place. I am getting ready to vibe with you. So this is two thumbs up. This is two thumbs up.
I love it. All right,
Yes.
everyone, I want to introduce you to Dr. River. Dr. River is going to tell you all about what she does. Yeah, let's start with that. If you want to tell everybody your name, of course, and what do you do?
Yeah, yeah. So, well, thank you very much for just having me on here. I've been looking forward to this all week.
Yes.
So yeah, Dr. River Sturdivant. I am so I serve as the founder of Expand Flow Grow Inner Leadership Solutions as an inner leadership coach. And really, where that work there focuses is, I like to call it, it's at the intersection of strategic leadership and your inner wisdom, and really combining both of those. And so I know we'll get a chance to really talk about that. So it's not just,
Hmm.
let's take all the workshops and classes and credentialing, without, setting aside all of the things that
Right.
make us who we are. And so I'll pause there. But there are many things that have been on my journey, that have led to this moment, and sitting in this seat of joy that I have right now.
I love that, sitting in a seat of joy. And I am listening. I'm trying to send this link out to a few leaders that I
Sure.
know. Yeah, they just text me and I want them to get on with
Oh,
it as
yes,
well.
yes, absolutely. Oh,
Yes.
yes, there. Yeah, so the seat of joy is also like why I even purchased these yellow chairs for the patio, because it is like I need all the reminders wherever I can that I get to claim my seat of joy.
I love
Mhm,
that. So, what made
mhm.
you want to become the strategist that you are? Tell me the name of it again. Oh,
Uh, so the company is
not the
Expand.
company,
Oh, I'm
but
sorry.
not the company, but what it is you do. The you said the title
Yeah,
a
so
moment.
yeah, yes, yes, yes. So inner leadership coaching, and
Interleader.
yeah, and the I often sum it up in thinking about how a lot of high achieving women, or really for any leader, doesn't matter that we can't lead others until we are leading ourselves well. The path to leading others well, the path
Mm.
to, transformational leadership really starts on the path of inner leadership. And what does that look like? So
Mm.
mhm. And I guess, for me, what started it was, I'd done lots of um, trainings in corporate settings and nonprofit settings, government settings, leadership development trainings, all of that. And without fail, over time, I just began to notice that the real barrier to implementing some of those tactics and checklists and all of those things is like, well, how are we tapping into the the thing we need to deal with on the inside in order to show up as a great leader? Like, I can't have a courageous conversation with somebody on my team if I can't have a courageous conversation with myself.
Wow.
So that's how I think about it.
Whoa,
Yeah.
that's good right there. Before
Yeah.
we dig into that, I just want to go back a little bit. Actually, I want to go back from my podcast last week, and
Which was
actually,
juicy.
excuse me.
Which was juicy. So good. So good. So if anybody has not listened to or seen last week's podcast, it is a must listen.
Yes,
Absolutely.
it absolutely. And you were dropping gems in that comment section as
Yeah.
well. But
Gratitude.
I before we dig deep into you, but this is all in alignment. I really want people, what I said last week and even the podcast before about building community,
Mm-hmm.
this is what it looks like. Okay. You see two
Mm-hmm.
black women, you see two women, you see two humans. We met through community. I never met
Mm-hmm.
this sister face to face. Okay. But the way
Mm-hmm.
we talked, there was no gaps. I let this the conversation was so enlightening. So this is about finding your
Mm-hmm.
finding your tribe. And it just makes me so excited because I learned going through, and we're going to talk about the webinar you have coming up. I'm just even reading that cover page. I'm learning from. I would not have learned that 2 weeks ago. I'm not gonna lie, I wouldn't even heard of it. Something similar, but just to know someone now who does this. So, do you mind telling people how we connected through community?
Yes, through community. And we can shout
Yeah.
out. Can we shout out Coach Val? I
Are
mean, we
you
gotta
kidding
shout out Coach
me?
Val.
Absolutely. Tell us. Yes.
Listen, so this was so, we're both part, we both are subscribers, part of Coach Val
Yes.
J on Instagram, Threads, all the places, Coach Val J. And so, she hosts a community for coaches, right? And so we were both on a Zoom call, tired, like 9 o'clock at night, and I'm like, I'm
Tired.
tired. Am I gonna really log into this? Yes, okay, I'm gonna do it. Maybe I'm not even gonna turn my camera on, but I'll do it. But we did. And so that conversation was so rich. It was so uplifting and connective and all the things. And then, we just followed each other, and I'm thinking, all right, it's just a great follow. But just like listening to you, Ursula, and just learning from you in that moment, it was like, oh, I want to connect with this sister. And so it was just like instantaneous. And so then we, you reached, we connected, and then shared about, this as a possibility. And then we had a Zoom, and it was just like elevated. We just had a video call, and I'm like, have I known you in some other like world? So but it was in community, and showing up and being present in the space made a difference.
It
Such a
absolutely
difference.
did. And I know that what I'm about to say is going to be, I'm sure, in alignment with what you do with your leadership skills, that I know we all connected on that Zoom call because we were vulnerable,
Yes.
right? We won't get
Yes.
into the topics, but because you have to join Coach Val's, but
Coach Val J. Mm-hmm.
that's right. But my point is that we came to the table and we were vulnerable. Not only were we all vulnerable when we spoke, we all were non-judgmental.
Yes.
It was an open, safe space.
Yes.
And it was a community. I felt so good. And just like Dr. Rivers said, this was at 9 o'clock at night. I had played pickleball for hours. I was tired. My hair's all. I said, well, I'm not going to cam up, but I thought about not joining. Apparently, you did as well. We did. And just that sense of community. I was wired when the Zoom call ended. I was wired when you and I got off of our separate Zing, because I just felt good. It feels good being around like-minded people. I love learning from people. So everyone, we connected on the back end, but when I was in that DM, like, hey, I have a podcast. Would you like to be on this podcast? And here we are.
It's like, oh, absolutely. And you know what? I didn't think about this until right now. So one of the things that Coach Val, of course, as we know, is known for her, formulas, right? And so that key one is, the quality of your life is determined about your decision, right, to, forward progress, and so the decision to prioritize forward progress that night, right? That was a decision. You're tired, I'm tired, and we prioritized forward progress because it was going to help our business, it was going to help us grow, and then the quality of our life enhanced as a result. So that's also just a testament of how, like, what comes out, what community can birth, what's possible.
Absolutely. And using our stag, our strengths, talents. What is it?
Oh, you're gonna test me.
I know it. Strengths, talents. It'll come to us.
I know it'll come to us.
But we're using our talents together to build this community. And you listening, whoever's listening to our voices, you all are part of this Black Girls Getting Their Shift Together movement, this community as well. So I'm not about hoarding what I know. I'm all about resources. So here's a resource right here. So let's get into it.
Let's do it.
I love what you said about having conversations if you're leading, or like being a leader, but how can you if you cannot have a
Mhm.
conversation with yourself.
Mhm. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a lot. How do you think if people embrace their emotions, how does that look when you are someone that's in leadership?
Mhm. I think that, as we're talking specifically, of course, this, moment to leaders in general and, Black women in particular. And so there's a whole other layer, for us when we're thinking about leadership and Black women in leadership roles. And also, just to clarify on the front end, when I say high achieving women, or I'm saying, leaders, that is however you as an individual define that, right? It doesn't mean you need to be in the C
Mm,
suite. It doesn't mean you need to even necessarily have like however many direct reports, because we're all leading in different ways. It could be in your, in community, your sorority, your church, your, on the block. So if you perceive yourself as a leader, and you influence those in your company, in your organization, on your team. But
that's
I
good.
think that, like our emotions are, to me, the foundation for everything. And so no, and I believe that in terms of like how it shows up or how it impacts our ability to have conversations with ourselves, especially courageous conversations with ourselves, I like to flip it. So usually what prevents us from being able to have courageous conversations with ourselves is because we're afraid of what ourselves will say. We're afraid of like what we're gonna feel. We're afraid of what we're gonna see and experience. So we just
Lis-
close that door. The door closed.
Listen. Wait, before we go on with that, what do you define as a courageous conversation with yourself?
Oh no, that's a good one right there. I I feel like when I think about courage, it's like the ability, the willingness, the ability to show up in the face of something that could potentially, maybe there's a threat, maybe, in the face
Mm,
of fear, like it's going to take a little extra right, to go and do
mhm,
that thing that makes you, the sweaty palm conversation, right? We
mhm.
all, and different things may something. I someone like you could have a conversation with yourself, and it may not necessarily be you and it's just second nature to you to have to talk to somebody about X, Y, or Z,
Right.
but it may just generate all kind of fear for me. And so I also think that it depends on the person, right? And in terms of
Mm,
if this is something that I feel is, it's the sweaty palm conversations, it's the come to
yeah.
Jesus conversations, it's, yeah, that kind of
And
thing.
let's keep it real. Those can be so uncomfortable. Girl, it can be so uncomfortable looking in the mirror and holding your own self accountable. That
It is.
that's a sweaty palm conversation. Let me tell you, can I story time? Can I share
Come
some?
on, come through story. I'm here for story time.
So I was with my career coach.
Mhm.
Look her up, anybody listening, Aquana Raffington. Was with my coach and we were talking about something that was personal on my end.
Mhm.
And I was being vulnerable. I didn't think twice about telling her. And so
Mhm.
I shared it with her. And she said, you know what? See, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about having safe spaces with
Mhm.
non-judgment. She said, you know
Mhm.
what? That's good that you have that introspection because it was something I was not proud of or something I
Mhm.
said and did years and years ago. But you know, it still was uncomfortable.
Yes. Yes.
But I didn't think about it being a courageous conversation. I like that term.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I like
So like how, and so then it's like, ooh, and then it's like once you do it takes a little less courage the next time or something similar, but it's like I liken it to having to build muscle,
mm,
like, oh, okay, once I don't know, do a deadlift with X amount of weight. I ain't been to the gym in a long time, so I don't even know what.
right.
But anyway, but when you build your muscle over time to do that.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm. I
yeah.
think if you build that muscle over time, alignment does come? What do you think?
Oh gosh, I think so, and I think that the inner congruency. So like to go back to what you were saying, like the connection between emotions and courageous conversations. I think the more congruent we are, the more aligned we are internally, that is part of what helps us build our capacity, build our muscle to have those courageous conversations. Because if I'm
Mm.
shaky about if I'm shaky about my boundaries, I'm shaky about, what I really, my worthiness, my sense of worthiness, my sense of wholeness, all of those things, then it's going to be hard for me to talk to people about certain things potentially that's related to me
Hmm.
personally. Um, so what but sometimes, let's say you have to have a sweaty palm conversation with a team member about their performance. And so it's not necessarily about you, but it is, the more in tune we are, I believe, the more in tune we are and can navigate our own emotions, then it also builds muscle for navigating emotional landscape with others. Like building your
Mhm.
EQ benefits us and those around us, you know.
So for those who do not know, can you tell them what EQ means? I mean, I know what it means,
Yes.
but for other people, yeah.
Thank you. Yes, yes, yes. I'm gonna stay away from just listing things. So emotional intelligence. So instead of IQ, your EQ, right? And your ability to identify, name, navigate emotions, anticipate, outcomes as a result of those emotions, and to use your emotional data, not good or bad, to be able to help you live and lead in ways that really serve you well.
Okay. You dropped that gem in the chat last week. I don't know if you remember when you dropped that, and then we were like, "Oh, that's some good stuff." You talked
Oh
about
man.
yeah, you talked about the emotions being the data. So, um, the question was last week on how can someone tell for a person, let me back up, for a person who is not in tune yet with their
Yes.
emotions,
Hmm.
how can they tell, like what's their barometer? And then that's when you dropped in the chat about just how we feel, and that's the data, like it's always there.
Oh
That was
man,
good.
yes,
That was
yes.
good.
I'm such a big believer in that, and I think, use it all the time to check myself, like what's really going on. But I think the other thing, right? It's like, so if we think of emotions as either bad or good, then we don't want to connect with, identify, with, look at, process any of the things that are bad. Let me just put it over here. And then it's just like, okay, I'll just want to talk over here about these things that are good. But they're neither good or bad, right? Like emotions are data from ourselves to
Mm.
ourselves about
Mm.
ourselves and how we're experiencing different people, circumstances, or situations.
That's good.
So if I feel anxious or fearful or resentful or these things I think are bad, they're just guideposts to help me see like, oh, how is this aligning with what I really value, whatever the situation is. So
Right.
yeah, so that's part of the EQ. That's part of like building up our emotional intelligence so that we can tap in, not necessarily be burnt out or get out of the burnout zone quicker if we find ourselves there or in leadership. Yeah.
Mm. So I'm glad you mentioned the burnout part. So what are your thoughts on when someone is in that constant grind motion and you're ignoring your emotions, which in turn ignore your well-being as well? I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah. I mean, so can we bring in the strong black woman piece in there too?
drop it.
Because
Drop
listen,
it.
okay, we're gonna drop that in there. Let's drop that in there. Because so the burnout, especially for black women, in particular, but when we're on the grind, and I'll just as we're dropping that in, I'm just gonna use, there was a time when I was staying up till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, basically taking a nap. I'm asleep with the laptop in the bed, waking up at 5 or 6 a.m. to grind, consulting clients, the job, the kids, all the things. And just, to achieve that next thing on the thing. And so that burnout, that chronic, all the things, I fortunately experienced that journey. And I say that for a
Mm,
reason. But and so part of it, I think, for Black women in particular, is that, well, if we are not raised in environments or, the culture, all the things where our emotions should stay in our back pocket, our feelings need to stay in the back pocket, it's not safe.
mm.
Historically, generationally, it is not safe for us to process our emotions. Then we're not even looking at that. I'm not even taking time to actually, like, you want me to ask myself, how am I feeling about being on 5 boards and, needing to come home and lead 3 church committees and sit on the sorority, you know, um,
Yeah.
chair the next conference and all of those things. Like, that's just something that feels very foreign and not something we have access to. So then we don't even, so if we're not able, we don't give ourselves the space, or we don't feel like we're worthy of paying attention to how we're really feeling, then the
Ooh.
body will tell us. The body will tell us.
Not you dropping another gem. That's
You know
real
what?
right there. Yeah.
The body don't lie.
When you said if we don't feel worthy enough.
If we don't feel worthy enough,
That's a word right there.
I,
Mm,
I, worthiness and wholeness is like, mm, everything to me.
is
Like,
it?
that it's so critical. And so this is why I think that, like, you'll never hear me talk about, like, okay, here's this top 10 list of, like, self-care things that you can do, or take a bubble bath, or, you can Google that, right? I mean, and there's some of that, and maybe some of the things that I might, talk about if somebody needs that, because they've dealt with the worthiness and the wholeness piece. But
Mhm.
most women I know how to, you can Google 100 ideas on self-care and on all the things, no cost, low cost, high cost, whatever you want to do. But if we don't think we're worthy of those experiences, we will never do any of them, ever.
Wow.
So
Wow.
you can go Google that, but, like, what do we need to do on the inside? And if we're a leader, we ain't gonna think our team is worthy of taking their time off. We're not gonna think that, like, it's a whole thing. All to things.
You know that's making the reel, right? Let me timestamp this. No, I'm for real. Let me hold on.
No, no, no. No, no, no. This is just,
Oh, no, she didn't. Wait.
we're gonna end Mental Health Awareness Month. Scroll.
Let me tell you, Dr. River,
Listen,
the
we
way that struck me, I ooh,
mm,
ooh, that's good. If
it's
anyone listening, if don't name names, don't drop it in the chat, but if that resonated with you, think about a past employer you may have had. And that, ooh, now that just made me think that can give a person somewhat some compassion towards
mm,
their toxic leader, whoever.
mm,
Because think about what is going on with them
mm-hmm,
for them to act that way towards the employees.
mm-hmm. Oh,
You
it's
know?
because they're, I mean, I don't know. I guess you have some who I'm not sure I've ever seen. I don't know. Maybe at some point I'll go and reflect on all this. But Dave's like, I'm not naming names, but
David, DM me. No. He
I'm
said,
not. He said, I'm just look. I'm just saying, because I'm not sure I've ever experienced a leader. Like, if we flip it, right? I'm not sure if I've ever experienced a leader who, um, they really value their own, not even just work life balance, right? But just kind of, they're tending to themselves, they're empathetic towards themselves. They take time to really, they're dropping in on how they're feeling, all of those kinds of things. And then they show up in a completely different, the opposite way to those who are on their team or their family or whatever. It's that's a hard flip,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, I just had
Hmm.
another idea for another topic. And yeah, I'll be calling you again for that.
That's
So that's some good
great.
stuff. Wow, you're really unlocking a lot in my head right now. So, what are your thoughts on leading from a place of wholeness as a leader, someone who can embrace all aspects of themselves?
Mm-hmm. um
'Cause we kind of touched on it already.
yeah, but
Mm.
no, there's I think that, like, so when I think about wholeness, there's a person who comes to mind, and that would be my a few years ago when I was going through my yoga teacher training program. And her name is Nikki Myers, and she is an amazing soul
Mhm.
and just revolutionary woman. And she just, like, blew my mind the very first time that she introduced herself. And I you do that oftentimes, right? Where she introduced her whole self. So
Mm.
she introduced, so for instance, the good, the bad, the highs, the lows, the parts that we feel, shameful of. Now, so when I think about wholeness, it doesn't necessarily mean that everybody needs to know on business, like every single thing. But if I'm not able to accept all parts of me, if I'm not, let's say for instance, I mean, it's not part of my story, but if I started a program and I didn't get a chance to finish it,
Mhm.
I started a business and it failed. I started a marriage and it failed, whatever those things are. And I'm not able to accept those parts of myself, then my lack of acceptance of all parts of me, it shows up in the workplace and in relationships and in all the areas. So,
How
you
does that
know,
look though? How does it look when it shows up in the workplace?
so I think like an example might be
Mhm.
where if I haven't if I haven't accepted, or if let me use stronger language, if I reject or am shamed internally about being let go from a job in the past, or not being able to successfully do X, fill in the blank, or
Mhm.
my marriage fell, whatever, then I'm probably showing up in a way to constantly try to prove that I'm worthy to be in that space, I'm worthy to be in that seat.
Mm.
That whole imposter syndrome. So I think imposter syndrome, yes, our environments can often support that, right? If you work in a really toxic environment, and that's part of it. But part of it is also, what parts of you do you not accept? What parts of you do you not think are good enough from our own, like historical, whatever, or just my own journey. And therefore I feel like an imposter. Like, I don't feel like I know enough, do enough, and so then I might be overperforming. I might be doing the
Mm.
burnout. I might, I need to be good enough, and I need everybody to perceive me as good enough. So I am going to agree to be on one more board, even though I'm on five. Because I have there's a reason why we're, you know, in constant state of doing, and it's not always at the hand of what someone else is doing to us or making us do, or I think it's a
Wow.
combination.
I never thought about it like that. So that makes sense how someone can be burnt out,
I think it
or a factor.
contributes to it. For sure. And I think it's also even on, um so if I think little of me, or there's some part of me I'm not proud of, or I'm shamed about, or whatever, or let's say I'm a single mother, which I am, and I co-parent very well, and so
Oh,
we have a
good.
great relationship. So I'm not married, but let's say for instance, I had a lot of shame there. I want to reject that part, right? I don't really want to accept that part of my reality. Now, how do I look at, that woman on my team who is also always needing to take time off because she needs to go and deal with her kids or pick up her kids or whatever, even if it's unconscious? Like, am I showing up and thinking that like how does that impact my
Wow.
perception of others in those spaces that are related to where I'm not accepting parts of me?
Wow. Do you think that that's projection or
I think it you know could be projection, and people absolutely. And I feel like the more parts of me I can go and reclaim, then I am better able to have some of those courageous conversations with myself. Like
Mhm.
it's okay to go into that part of the house, and I'll go into, those, the basement, and that room is in the basement, and maybe you don't spend that much time going down there. So it's
Mm.
just, there's a lot of connectivity with, wholeness and worthiness and our emotions.
So speaking of that, makes me think of authenticity,
Mm-hmm.
right? It makes me think of authenticity and integrity as well,
Ooh.
right? So when someone is leading, how can that improve their professional life if they decide to have those courageous conversations to themselves? How can that look in their professional life?
Mm-hmm. Ooh, authenticity and integrity. And it's so funny because a lot of times we think about like others, like, okay, that person over there needs to be more authentic, or this person over here doesn't have a lot of integrity, or politicians, or, you know, um, what have you. And I just, so hands down, I will always stand 10 toes down on this. I think leadership is an inside job first.
Mm,
So
mm,
if, you know, so for instance, if I have a challenge with being authentic and really, walking in integrity, I think number one is like, what does that even mean for me? Like, what are my stated values and what are my lived values? 'Cause
hmm.
sometimes those are two different things. And and it takes some real analysis to know. Like, for instance,
Yeah, because
let's
I'm trying
say,
to process that myself. I've never heard of that put that way. The stated and
yeah,
the
and lived values, right? So, like,
mm,
for instance, for me, um, and let's say anywhere around 2013, 14, 15, 16. There was a whole long time period. And I was navigating a divorce. At the time, I had two school-age children. I
okay,
was in my doctoral program. I had my own consulting firm. I was also in another kind of relationship that was, pulling all kinds of energy
okay,
out of me. And at the time, I was also in kind of winding through all that. Then my dad gets diagnosed with lung cancer, and he dies like 38 days later.
oh my
So,
god,
and this was all, over the course of a handful of years. And in the midst of that, my son loses his vision and all of his central vision, and that happened suddenly.
okay,
So I'm sharing that because whether it's in time of crises or it's just our regular everyday life, I was probably saying that, I really value family. I really
okay,
value my children. I, I value X, Y, or Z, right? And so then, but if I really look at it, I mean, I'm pretty sure that Grubhub fed my kids a good,
mm,
smooth 5.5 days out of the week.
okay,
That, I'm always on the phone, on a meeting, on a thing, gonna go teach, gonna go do all these things. So I'm not sure that my lived values were the same as my stated values. Like when
uh,
someone asks me, what do you value? What's your guiding principles in life? What do you value personally?
Mhm.
And if I, there's an exercise I do with clients where we can go through and really look at, we can be really objective and observe patterns in different things. And you're like, oh, my emotions and my thoughts are not necessarily in alignment with what I'm saying
Mm,
that I value. Therefore, my acted out, my lived values are showing up different than what I prefer. So
that's good. And yeah, it can be or not in alignment. Like one sounds good, but one is actually what is really happening. Like this is real life right here.
I mean, yeah, it's and not that like every single day is like a some perfect thing, right? But if you take your law of averages over,
Mm,
you look at things over, 30 days, 3 months, 9 months, whatever it is, or if I'm saying, I really value, I don't know, my peace, or I value peaceful communication, but I'm like cutting up and cussing folks out like day, or
that
I
part.
value my health and I ain't been to the doctor in 3 years. Like,
Mm,
really? Like, I didn't value my health. I wasn't even sleeping. Let alone all the other things, So,
right.
so the alignment, right? The authenticity and the congruency probably shows up. I know a woman, and she says, and I take it from her Noreen Nowak, but we we take ourselves wherever we go. And so this is why
Yeah.
it's not really life coaching for me, or necessarily like professional coaching. It's just inner leadership coaching, because if I'm incongruent personally, it's probably also showing up professionally.
That's wild. Wow.
Probably worth looking at, maybe just a little bit.
Mm, mm.
My experiences.
That's a lot. I While you're speaking, I'm going in the memory banks and I'm thinking of different from years and years ago, different situations. And we knew what was going on. We had little snippets of it,
Uh huh.
but it came out in leadership.
Mm.
And
Hmm.
if anything, that part was aligned.
Oh well, you know,
It happens
it's
both ways.
yes, yes, yes. That's, and sometimes you just have to believe people. Like, if that's what like, if that's if I'm picking up what you're putting down, right? Like, in the sense that we say it happens both ways, you mean in terms of someone valuing a certain, tell me more what you meant. That way I won't
So
necessarily.
meaning it happens both ways. So we're talking about alignment.
Uh-huh.
If someone is in alignment, in a I don't say a positive way, but they're keeping up with their integrity, their authenticity, their
Uh-huh.
vulnerability, being human, that's in an alignment. Okay. But then
Yep.
if you have someone who's the polar opposite of that, um, they are they're misaligned, but their misalignment is still in alignment. Their misalignment is still in alignment, but it's to themselves. It's somewhere else on another spectrum. That's what I'm trying to say. It's on the opposite end of the spectrum.
Uh-huh.
Not
Mm-hmm.
saying that it's right, but they live together.
Yes, yes. And so, what you made me think about is like the so it's just like, are you are you aligned with your hoped for desire in X part of your life, whatever that area is.
Mhm.
So, for some people, it's not a value of theirs necessarily to, oh, I really want to make time for family. I want, no, they are like, here's what I want. Here are my goals in
Mhm.
terms of, I don't, I'm not gonna do a good job of coming up with like an example, but they could be aligned with something that is their hope for desire that is not in alignment with mine, but their actions and their emotions and all of those things are in alignment with that goal that they have. And if
Mm-hmm.
we're not solid on the inside, we might find ourselves being in alignment with where they're going, and that's not really where we want to go. I, but I haven't clarified that within me, so I'm just
Okay.
rolling, rolling.
Wait, get this one.
Right, you know what I mean? Like what?
Okay. This is making me think. I just learned of this term called locus of control. That's
Mhm.
what it sounds like when I don't have myself together, meaning from my understanding of it, mm, that feeling I get from within, like that internal validation. But if I don't have that in alignment and I just go with the flow with whoever, like you said, you just follow along with someone else. So it's like you're looking for that external validation, that feeding off of that externally as opposed
Uh-huh.
to feeding from within. That's what made me think of that. And I just learned of that term like literally a couple days ago. And I was still trying to grasp what it meant. I mean, I'm reading it, but when you drop that right there, that's when it all just came together.
Mm,
So, for
mm,
example, this was a long time ago. I had a leader, and if they had a bad day, they would come in
mm.
8 o'clock in the morning, 7:59. We can already see the look on their face. We already
Ooh.
knew. And anyone listening to me, drop a one in the chat if that sounds familiar, or share your experience. And also,
Mhm.
while we're at it, and hit the like button, subscribe, share this video with someone who has a leader. We all have leaders in some kind of way. Dr. River just said it. So when we can just feel energy is real. I believe in energy, vibes,
Mhm.
same thing.
Mhm. Mhm.
When you're with someone, you know them,
Mm.
and they we knew they had a bad day. Well, just to show you how my mindset was, I'm gonna say it. I would say out loud, okay, X, oh, they're having a bad day. I guess we all gonna have a bad day.
Woo!
What?
Like, wait, what?
And you know
Oh.
what, Dr. River, I would mean it too.
Mhm.
I would mean it.
Yeah.
That's wild to me. Has anyone ever done that? I mean, let me know. I know. Look, already we
Because
have
their
a
energy was like so strong, right? And it just like goes out into the, you know, just out there.
yeah.
It's just out there.
And you know how it
And
felt? It was like a glass of water, and if someone puts a drop of blue dye, and it just like osmosis,
yep.
and then instead of putting my blockers around it, I woke up in a pretty damn good mood today. No, I would just absorb it like a sponge, and now I'm blue.
Now
Girl,
see,
girl.
see, that is okay, so let's go with that. Let's just run with that for let's flow with that one for a minute, right? So
Yeah,
if that leader, you got a bad day, and anybody, right? So it could be the leader, it could be a team member, however, right? But so that leader, you're having a bad day, there's, whatever happened, a thing happened. I don't know. Maybe they just literally woke up on the wrong side of the bed. But a thing is happening for them. And I would dare say that, I mean, we're all human, right? We're all human, but like low EQ, low emotional intelligence is okay, well now how do you process that emotion, whatever the emotions are that they're dealing with? How do you navigate that so that you and then like, okay, well, what is this telling me? So like for instance, I oh gosh, I don't know. I remember a time when I was in a meeting and like my whole energy was shifting. Something was going on. I just it was not good. I was not feeling good, and I end the meeting. I'm like, man, I'm frustrated. man, I was feeling like I'm angry. But then I'm like, there's something else here. It wasn't just like, oh, that was a frustrating meeting. And so I had to go take a little walk. And then I was like, oh, yeah, I kept going with it. And it was resentment, right? There were other things that had been
Mm,
happening. And when I named it as resentment, which is like one of the most complex emotions, because you have disappointment, anger, there's a sense of unfairness. There's like a lot of things that's packed up in that. And then I'm like,
mhm,
oh, okay. So why am I feeling that? What is that telling me? Where is that coming from? Da-da-da-da-da. And then I can go and have that courageous conversation with myself first, and then with the individual to unpack something really specific. Oh, an actual like situation that had happened, not like they're responsible for my feelings, but that I could, like then how am I showing up to process that? So, I was like, all right, let me sit with this, let me name this, let me figure out how I'm gonna navigate that, what that's telling me about things,
mm.
and then kind of, going through that. But it took a minute because you know, I wasn't sitting there looking like, Miss Little like woosah, hamina, meditating. And the moment I had to go I had to go get my face together. I had to go get it all. I had to put myself in time out for a minute. you know, but that energy can go out and impact folks like that blue drop in the water if we're not, if we're not careful, or we drink the water. So we're drinking. I don't have to
Ooh.
drink it. I don't. You know,
Mm. Yeah. Ooh, you hit a nerve right there. Ouch. I've
I,
had
you
gallons of
know,
that water. Wow.
cause it's like drinking salt water out in the ocean. I hear you die if you do that. you know, we can't, we can't, you might live a little longer as lake water, but that salt water gets a little tricky. So I, yeah, so like that burnout to yeah, listen, I had to go. No homina, Mr. Hunt. I don't know if it's
Hunt.
Hunt. Okay, yes, it's I have to gotta pull it together.
On a side note, David, he is a musician. He's a very accomplished musician. David, I wonder if you could make a song with the Wusa Hamina Hamina.
Oh, that would be so.
Would that be good?
Listen, yeah, play your own soundtrack sometimes. So
That
that is it.
part.
That is it. One like a thing that I do, like, and that I'm reminded of because I had to do it in that moment, was audio journaling. So, sometimes written journals, or oh man, listen, David, I'm about to connect. So I like, writing, written, journals as well. And but sometimes people don't have time for it. Or is that not your thing? But I would it could be in the car, you pick up your phone, voice notes, whatever, to just get it out. Sometimes it's helpful to like listen to yourself say a thing, you know, and so
Mm.
it's like just to get it out. I am feeling this, whatever it is, just get it out. You don't have to be some like, structured way, but it's a way to get it out of your body. And then if you need to, like, then replay it and say, okay, what was really going, what's really going on for me. But like in that resentment moment, for instance, that was the thing I had to do. It's like, look, a little bit
Really?
of time. You can be in the car. People talk about they don't have time, but it's like, no, we have time. It's just how we're using the time that we have.
Yeah. Okay. So, oh wait, there's some more comments here. Hold on.
Yeah, what we got?
Can we read some? David
Mhm.
said, I usually find that good positive music can change the mood and my mindset.
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
agree. You know what, David? I may have to
Hmm.
slide up in your DMs because I know how to get in
Yes.
touch with you or who I need to get in touch with to get your info. I like that. Uh huh.
Hmm. Another thing about that, I think that So on the one hand, we can, we could, right, we can take time to identify how we're feeling, process things as they are happening. And we can think about, how do I want to feel? Right? Like, it can be proactive with
Mm.
emotional states. Like, okay, so I have this presentation. I'm going to have a conversation with you know, a difficult employee or team member. How do I want to feel going into that? How do I want to feel coming home after a long day,
Mhm.
or whatever it is? And then
Mhm.
what would it take? WWIT. I love WWIT questions. What would it take for me to feel the emotions that will support what I'm wanting to accomplish? Or what would it take to think the thoughts, or what emotions will help me think the thoughts that will lead to the actions that I want to take.
I
So
like
like the
that.
music, like, okay, what's the music? We know how to do it because we know how we want to feel when we go into the club. I mean, for those who still going to, what I'm saying, you know how to get right when you want to get right. You
That's
know how to put
right.
Barry White on when you want to put Barry White on. So we know we use it to get into certain kind of emotional states. Well, how do we intentionally, proactively choose our emotional states for leadership so that we can show up and have whatever we want to have, or conversations and those kinds of things?
It sounds like being very intentional,
Uh-huh.
mindful. Okay, a mindful leader. Okay, 'cause I heard that
Yeah.
term. That's what. See, it's all coming
Yeah.
together. That's why I'm glad I'm
Yeah.
talking to you. I like that because it's like you are creating this map. Pretty much, it's like you're regulating your emotions. You're creating this map before you have the conversation with that employee, as opposed to just going in with guns blazing. That's how I'm interpreting what you're saying.
Absolutely.
Mm,
Absolutely. I think emotions drive behavior all day long, whether you buying something, you choosing who you gotta make, like, emotions are driving behavior. And so, yes, an intentional, mindful leader, like, how can we be strategic? And there's like TFA, thoughts, feelings, and actions. So they all play a role, right? My thoughts, my feelings, my actions, and they're connected. We can be strategic in how we're wanting to feel and the thoughts we want to think
that's some good stuff.
towards ourselves and others.
So, okay, there's few more things, two more things I want to talk about.
Hmm.
One, when you have your day-to-day discussions with these leaders, what has been the most common resistance from a leader that you come across with these encounters, that or their blocks, if
Oh,
there's
that's a great
any?
question. Hmm.
And you can think about it, but
Yeah,
it could,
yeah.
it could actually be the after show. Let's do that.
You got an after show. All
Let's do
right.
the
Well,
after show.
yeah.
Let's,
Okay. All right. Well, I'll let that
yeah.
marinate for a second.
So the
Mhm.
second thing is, if you're listening to my voice, everyone knows this movement of Black girls getting their shift together. We talk about issues and problems, but we also talk about strategies, and we're very solution based over here. That's why I love my podcast
I
because
love it.
I can come up with some issues, but that's, but I also know that there are solutions for it as well. So, everyone, I'm going to drop the link. Dr. River has a webinar, a 3-part webinar series that's coming up. And I'm going to drop the link, but I want you to listen to what she's talking about first before I drop the link. So, whenever you're ready, can you let us know about this webinar series?
Yeah. So the webinar series, which starts next week on Tuesday, so 3-part webinar series, 3 Tuesdays in a row, 1 hour, 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern time. And the idea here, so it's called Lead with Ease, and it's really targeting high achieving women who are looking to lead with more clarity, more calm, and more courage, right? So
Mm,
if you're interested in, not just doing the grind culture, or being dragged by the grind culture, and being a more grounded leader, being a more centered leader. This is, this is what that's about. So on session one, we're focusing on emotions, and the inner wisdom that's there, and how do we tap into that, how do we identify our emotions, and what patterns we could look for. The second session is focusing on values.
May I
Oh
enter
yeah,
may I interject for a moment?
absolutely, yeah, what's up?
I would like to read what part one is. That just
Oh, I
may I?
love it. Oh, absolutely, come
Okay.
on.
So this is part one. This is next Tuesday, June 4th. And it's embracing the wisdom in your emotions. You'll learn to recognize, understand, label. Dr. River talked about that. The expression, like you can express if you say things. That's why that's some good stuff. And listen to your emotions in ways that foster healthy leadership from the inside out. So instead of suppressing your emotions in the spirit of a superwoman, especially with us Black superwomen, what
Yes.
if we were able to embrace them as pieces of wisdom within you? Ah!
Oh
Oh,
my
good.
gosh, you just like lit me up reading that. I'm like, oh, that's okay. I want to show up. No, no. But it is. I feel so passionate about that. One of the things that my mother shared growing up, and she didn't know it was a mantra, and it is what it is, but it was keep your feelings in your back pocket. Not everybody's gonna care about your feelings.
Oh,
That was an unfortunate thing for me to cling to for
yeah.
decades, right? And so, like at 50 now, it's just like, wait a minute, hold on. And so, knowing the clinging to that lie, that like, oh, I should keep that in my back. It just made for a really uncomfortable seat, right?
Yeah.
It didn't. So anyway, it's taking our feelings out of our back pocket, because they are there to share, to tell us something, to guide us, to give us wisdom.
Mm.
So
Can I
so
read day
yeah,
two as a
go
segue?
for it. Absolutely, let's do it.
Okay, so the next part two of this series is about creating your holistic practice for wellness. You can integrate practical and holistic techniques into your daily routine to enhance your decision making, reduce stress, which a lot of us go through in the burnout, right? And to
Mm-hmm.
maintain high performance under pressure. So instead of constantly feeling emotionally, mentally, and spiritually drained, which most of us super women, which most of us super Black women, because we can do everything. Remember that
Yeah.
t shirt? It says, I'll do it, signed Black woman.
Mm-mm.
This
Mm-mm.
is
Tear
a
that
t
up.
shirt. But what if you
Mm-mm.
had an easy to access system to support your well being? Your well-being,
Mm-hmm.
not the well-being of others, your kids, husband, partner, your well-being. I feel like we pour so much into others.
Yes.
We forget that one main person, self.
Right here, right here, right here. Absolutely. Absolutely. And we will actually close with that after we talk about values and such. But and the idea with that one is to support identifying what's going to be easy to access for you, right? Like some, like, oh, let's just go and do a journaling routine. Well, that may not just be practical for everybody, but what is um um in alignment with your own values and what you would find easeful to access and to connect with. But we need practices, like all of this is a practice, like leading with these is a practice. We eat every
Mm,
day, we take showers most days. So most people take them every day, I don't know, but like, so
mhm.
it's a practice. And so we want to, that's how I look at it. It's like whatever I did for myself to be more mindful, whatever today, that might have about a 24-hour lifespan. Sometimes I might have 12. So
Mm,
it's an ongoing. I can't work out today and think that's going to carry me through the next 6 months.
right. Huh.
Mm.
Oh, how did I skip part two? I
That's
got so
okay.
excited and scrolled down, but you know what? We're gonna make it work.
It's,
Um,
oh, yes.
yeah. So actually that was part three, but part two is integrating your personal and leadership values.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. Align your professional actions with your personal values for leadership that is not only effective, ooh, but also ethical and inspiring. So instead of
Yeah.
being dragged by external expectations, what if you were able to lead with clarity from your well defined values and priorities?
Yeah. That is,
Mm,
it, and the idea is that each session is building on the other, right? So that, all right, we're gonna start with emotions, right? And how are we listening to and identifying and labeling and all those things. And then let's look at our values and what's aligned and the values that we may say if we even some of us we may not even have like your list, like what's your list, what's your five, what's your seven, what's your three, whatever. And how does it,
mm,
when you look at that, like, how do you feel? How does that make you feel, like in your chest, in your stomach, and you're like, how do you physically feel, how do you emotionally feel? And then, depending on where you're wanting to go, the values that you want to both live and state, what does it take? What practices are easy to access for you to align how you're wanting to feel, what the values you're stating about where you want to go, and have those practices to, you know, as much as possible help
right.
with, getting there.
So first, David said that Wusa Hamina Hamina is his new mantra.
Oh, that's it. I gotta find I gotta find David. I have to find
He
David.
has a YouTube channel.
Okay, I mean, because I will be connecting. I love it.
Yeah, he said it's the new Hakuna
It's the
Matata.
new Hakuna Matata. Don't you have me start that yell? You know when Lion King starts. And I will, I will not embarrass myself. It takes that for me to get embarrassed. But yes,
I love
yes,
it.
yes,
I love
yes.
it. You know what I like in closing? I want to say, well, let me back up. Anyone listening, especially live, I just dropped a live link if you want to register for Dr. Rivers' webinar. That is a live link in the chat right now. And there's also a workbook, but you're going to have to log on, or you don't even have to log on. You just have to click the link after we finish, and it'll take you straight to information about the workbook as well and all the access that you will have for a couple of weeks. But you have to go back and look on that. David said leadership, living your principles.
Living. Oh, David is the man. I love it. I love
Yeah,
it. And also I will say that if for some reason, someone can't, ladies, if you can't attend one of the Tuesdays, you do have access to replays through the end of June. So, I would encourage you to still register, and that way you get access to the resources and some other goodies.
absolutely. I know I am definitely going to probably I'm number one, your first part one, that's really intriguing to me. I have
Mm-hmm.
a social mixer to go to. So when I read your information, I said, oh, good, she has recordings,
Oh
which is
yeah, for
great.
sure. For
Uh-huh.
sure.
And
Mm-hmm.
I will put that also in the show note description as well. So it's just gonna live there. Okay.
Awesome sauce.
Yeah. But registration closes on the second,
Um,
you
on a
all.
second. Yep.
So at the least, register excuse me, at least go on her Instagram, and I dropped that link as well. But what I enjoy about talking to you, listening to you, and reading your content, I love how you use several action words.
Hmm.
Yeah, anybody reading,
Hmm.
just reading, you can't be stagnant.
Oh. Oh, we gotta stay in flow.
You see what I'm
We
saying?
we
Well,
we have got to stay in flow because there is death in stagnation, right? Like when I think about water and
yeah.
like malaria ridden water, the nasty, stinky mosquito, it's the water that's just sitting there. And all right, awesome. Thank you, David. Appreciate that follow. It's the water that's sitting there. It is the water that is not moving. And we have to we got to stay in flow. And there's always that's just yeah, so that's really important, which is why also the reason why Coach Val J is her work and words and wisdom resonates because it's like, okay, what in this right now moment can I do, right, to just this
Mhm.
next step, and
Yep.
like, so yeah, it is
Yeah.
flow is
What
important.
it is. Just going through it, and I was like, man, you cannot help but move. Uh, what is? I'm
Mm,
trying to go through it right now. I saw something. Here it is. Um, aligning, um, express, listen, uh,
mhm,
fostering. I love it. I love it. I love it. Embracing, clarity, calm, courage. It's all there. So if that isn't enough motivation for you, I mean, just me reading it, it gets my engine really revved up. So can you imagine being in a webinar where you have someone with over 20 plus years, if not more, of experience on how to lead you from being burnt out to your brilliance? Um, what made you choose the words expand,
mm.
flow, and grow?
Oh, yes. Thank you for that question. So for me, I feel like one of the ways that's really foundational for how we're to evolve, continue to be and all that is to be expansive, right? It's like, what would it take for me to be expansive, whether I'm learning something new about myself, about the world, about others, and that we are limitless. I
Mhm.
believe that we are absolutely limitless. And so that expansion piece is part of that. When I think about the ocean, there is no end that you can see when you're
Mm.
on you're there, right? So we truly have capacity to perceive ourselves and act in ways that where we can be as expansive as possible. The flow, we talked about that, and just like, how can I move with least amount of resistance? It doesn't mean just be like a dead fish and just
Mhm.
go wherever and follow whoever and float wherever, but to be in flow with and to be at ease and grow. I just think we're all meant to grow. When you stop growing, you die. It's just
Yeah.
how this works. You can be 105 years old, but you can always grow in some way. So to expand and to flow and to grow is kind of just foundational for all the work that I do.
Okay, last question for you.
Yeah.
You have the word expand, flow, and grow.
Hmm.
Out of those three, which is your favorite? It has to be one. A solid. I know.
Mm.
And
You
you
know
got.
what? I'm gonna go with the one that's tattooed on my body. So the one that's tattooed on my body is flow. I'm gonna go with that. And I changed my name to River. I mean, my birth name is not River. My birth first name is not River, but I legally changed it to River because it truly represents for me, um, you know, life, power, peace, expansion, growth. Like you can't grow if
Ooh.
you don't have water. You can't, like the ocean just looks like expansion on expansion. So I'm gonna say flow. I'm gonna say
You
flow.
know what? You just gave me an idea of something. Ah, I'm gonna have to write it down real quick because I don't want to forget it.
Oh man, yeah.
Oh,
Oh
you just
man, I've never thought about that one. Yes, yeah.
here's my favorite word:
Uh-huh.
pizza. No,
You like quinoa. Wait, what?
pizza. No, my favorite word is definitely shift.
Mm,
It is shift.
mm-hmm,
Yes,
mm-hmm.
that is my favorite
Action
word.
word too, right? Like that's another
Absolutely.
action. Yes,
Absolutely. Yep.
yes. I love
I
that.
likened it to a stick shift. Even you got to downshift to one, but you're still moving. You're still moving. But when you get in that sixth
Love
gear,
that.
girl.
Baby,
Yeah, right,
listen,
baby.
listen. I learned
Yeah.
how to drive with a stick. Oh my gosh, yes. That was
Yeah.
you have to feel, you can feel the engine in the car when you driving, you got that stick shift going on. So there's a lot of meaning with the shift
Just
for sure.
think of something else. Woo! Girl, I love talking to you. I mean,
Likewise.
I do. I feel like
Woo!
one of my closest friends. I met her in college, and when I say I love her, just because
Uh-huh.
talking to her, it just makes me tap in. So when I'm talking to you, it makes me tap in and just seeing different perspectives. So I immensely enjoyed our conversation. I really hope it's not the last one we
I
have.
hope not either.
I mean,
Oh,
I knew the conversation was gonna go like this. Um, all the questions I had, it didn't even tap into a third of them. So I would love to do a part two, or we can just think of something else. We're in
absolutely.
alignment, so I can see it can go anyway, but the end result will be growth.
The end result will be growth.
Any parting words?
Oh man, just may we all just stay in flow, always and in all ways. And our emotions, they're data. Tap in and listen. Tap in and
Hmm.
listen.
I know it. Oh, you know what, Dr. River? Guess what? One more thing.
Uh-huh.
Do you know you are a black girl that has her shift together?
This for the queens, sisters manifesting their dreams. Get your cream by any means and beam with self-esteem. Beauty supreme and Buddha walk so mean. The way you fit in them jeans, you eat your cornbread and greens. Dance or a doctor, red wine or vodka. Redesign your spot and redefine your mantra. Retwist your locks and realign your chakras. Doing your squats and getting closer to God, huh? Brunching with your squad or taking a girl's trip. Adjust your crown, you God's gift to the world, sis. Celestial body, drink your water. Meditate, sun-kissed goddess, heavenly order. Levitate, tribe of Ashanti. Black girl magic, melanin popping. Whether you ratchet or lavish, whether you bougie or savage, you a gift and a treasure. You got to love a black girl getting a shift together. Black girls are getting a shift together. These black girls getting a shift together, man. These black girls are getting a shift together.